just feels like every single week we have the Giants completely inept, followed by a primetime game of Saquon Barkley rushing for, 230 yards? Oh, my God. I mean, it is just... And if you watch this game against the Giants, now, look, I know I'm in the mood for tanking. I am in tank mode, complete tank mode. I am happy, believe it or not, that the Giants lost this game. But it ends there because 30-7, where everybody on the team, and I mean everybody, decided to lay down, is unacceptable, right? It's just, we all know it. It's unacceptable. And I don't know what happened to the DeVito spark, but it didn't really happen, did it? As the offense continues to be inept. It's just hard to fathom how poor this offense is. Connor Hughes I saw a report from Connor Hughes, and they're averaging 14.7 points a game. It's still tied for the worst in franchise history. And I can go on and on about the coach, and I will here, because that's clearly the question. Coach, GM, what's the future of this team? It ain't about football. It's almost not even about football anymore. It never is with the Giants and Jets come Thanksgiving. It's never about football. It's about how you move forward or what's best path forward and trying to fix this crap. So, as I'll talk about the coach, I mean, this is an offensive coach that I've tried to defend. And I suppose I still will in some ways. But I've tried to defend this guy. And early on, I always said, if you remember, reports early on in this year were, Daboll's safe. Daboll's safe. I wouldn't worry about it. People laughed when you said Daboll's on the hot seat. Heading into the year, I don't know if you remember this, dog. It's so long ago now and seems so preposterous. But heading into the season, there was this feeling of, Daboll's safe. He's done a good job. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. It's he was no quarterback last year. And I said from the beginning, how can an offensive coach be safe when this is the offense they have put forward now? And heading into this year, I thought that there was an excellent chance that Daboll would be on the hot seat if the offense looked like it did last year. It's unacceptable. And I understand, listen, Tommy DeVito stinks. I don't know what we were expecting. I got exactly what I expected out of this game. Maybe not the defense laying down. Maybe not all the sound after the post game and all the comments from this group that's completely given up on football. Completely given up. It's one thing to watch your team lose. And the GM, when he had his, bye-week press conference and met with the media and, really you, he tried to explain how many tight, close games the Giants were involved in. How many one-score games the Giants had lost. Well, that's out the window. Because this team flat out gave up. And if you listen to the comments after about whether or not, the coach's message is getting through and all this stuff. And you know what? For me, I have to admit, I'm sorry. I understand. Maybe the coach's message is not getting through. But the effort the players put forth is unacceptable no matter who the coach is. And if I'm the Giants and if I'm John Mara, no matter who. And if I'm any prospective person to come in and be the next GM, be the next coach, be the next president of football operations, be the next czar of football, be whatever else you want to call it. I'm taking note of every single player on this field right now because this is where you find out who the players are. And we can talk about whether or not the coach lost the team. But I'm sorry, when I hear the comments I hear after the game, when I hear players refer to them as soft, this is soft as, bleep, coming from neighbors, and we'll get to the other comment neighbors had to say, whether it's Dexter Lawrence calling it soft, whether the comments from Burns or whatever the case may be, we can all talk. There is some personal pride of wearing a Giant uniform, no matter what you think of the coach. But clearly, and I know this is going to sound like more of the same from me blaming Daniel Jones, and I want to make this clear. This is not Daniel Jones' fault, but there is no doubt, and this pisses me off, and it pissed me off when I heard the comments from Dexter Lawrence and others earlier in the week, unnamed offensive sources about how, it's about money, it's about the contract, we're not playing the better quarterback. I hear it on the media. I'm turning on ESPN today, and I'm hearing about, this sets a bad tone for the organization by benching the quarterback. How in the world, quite honestly, how in the world does benching Daniel Jones and his choice to leave and the Giants doing the right thing and letting him go? The Giants didn't jettison him. The Giants benched him. Yes, they made him the fourth string quarterback. And we all know why. We all know why. And football players are businessmen. Right? Yes, there's a team, there's a camaraderie, there's a culture, all that true, sure. You got to fight for one another. The man who's standing next to you, you got to look into his eyes and all that. Fine. But they understand business. We all know why Daniel Jones was benched. We all know why Daniel Jones was no longer going to start for this team at 2-8. And he asked to be let go. Nobody said, you got to get the hell out of here. He asked, and the Giants did the right thing in letting him go. And who knows where he signs in the next couple of days. But if you listen to the comments when this move was made, this move broke the team. How does Daniel Jones, who, again, I would ask because I've seen the body language, and we're going to talk to neighbors, or talk about neighbors, rather, about, it's not the quarterback, Oh, you could tell, same as Daniel Jones, yeah. I've seen the body language and the comments after games, and I have a good feeling how neighbors feels about Daniel Jones. I saw Wan'Dale Robinson absolutely go nuts when he's wide open on a flea flicker and Daniel Jones can't get him the ball. The Giants are 2-8 under Daniel Jones, now 2-9. They were 2-8 losing. The only one who had any perspective on this thing was Kayvon Thibodeau when he told you, hey, look, we're 2-8, everybody's job's up for grabs. Damn right. The fact of the matter is, at 2-8, and the way the New York Giants were playing football, whether it was Drew Lock or whether it was Tommy DeVito, somebody else needed to be playing quarterback for the New York Giants because they cannot risk their future on a dead season. And if these players don't understand that, and if Dexter Lawrence and neighbors, who should be leaders on this team, can't understand that, and instead set the tone of the sad, he has the sad press conference. We all feel bad for him. We're not playing the right quarterback. And that's the effort you put forth off the bye week at home when you haven't given this home fan base a win all year? That's the effort you put forth. We can blame the coach. I'm open to blame the coach. I have never said anything other about this head coach. I have never once said this coach has to stay. Never once. I've been down on Brian Daboll for a while. My only point about Brian Daboll is if you are going to bottom out and you are going to draft a quarterback, I have faith that he can do that. It's the one thing I think he can do. It's the one reason he was hired. And if you're going to go down that route, I trust Brian Daboll to develop a young quarterback better than I trust John Mara to hire the right guy outside of Brian Daboll. Again, give him another opportunity to hire someone to develop a young quarterback. Plain and simple. That's all I've ever said. That's all I agree with. He was brought here specifically. What made him a head coaching candidate was specifically what he did with Josh Allen. Whether you think I'm being too reliant on that, whether you think he had nothing to do with it, whatever the case may be, that's what made him a coaching candidate. And if the New York Giants are going down this route of going to draft a young quarterback, I trust Brian Daboll to do that better than I trust John Mara to make another hire. Plain and simple. And do I feel worse about Brian Daboll now that the team is literally quitting in front of us? I suppose I do, yeah. How could you not? How could you not? How could you not feel worse about this GM? Even though it's ridiculous, we watch Saquon Barkley go nuts and you realize he let him go. To me, Xavier McKinney leading the NFL in sacks pisses me off a hell of a lot more about this GM than Saquon Barkley does. Because they knew how good of a safety he was. The younger player, a position that affects the team more, and someone who hasn't had the injury. I know he's got the hand stuff after, during the bye week 2 years ago. But Xavier McKinney would have been a guy I would have latched onto a lot more than Saquon Barkley. So have there been issues with this roster? Absolutely. But Have there been issues with the way this team has been coached? Of course. The offensive play calling today, Neighbors is pissed because at the start of the game, he doesn't get the ball until they're down 30-0. 0 targets in the first half. Now, part of that is the quarterback, and he can tell you all he wants. It's not the quarterback. A lot of it is that the quarterback sucks. They didn't same thing with Daniel Jones. That proves it's not the quarterback. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Did they bench him for a Pro Bowler? Were they playing Daniel Jones, wrongly and should have been playing Tommy DeVito this whole time? No. Tommy DeVito stinks. Tommy DeVito is not a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. We've all known this. Neither is Drew Lock, and unfortunately, we're going to find out, I suppose, neither is Daniel Jones. So we could say up and down it's not the quarterback because the first crappy quarterback sucks, the second crappy quarterback sucks just as much as the first crappy quarterback. That doesn't prove that the quarterback play on this team isn't the main or one of the main problems. It is. It absolutely is. We saw the same stuff from DeVito. Inaccurate, taking bad sacks, holding on to the ball too long. And the first half of offense looked the same way it's had over and over again. Should the coach make sure that you throw to your best player? Absolutely. Could the coach come up with a better game plan? Absolutely. Should the coach not be running a wildcat when you get to the first and goal and you're finally moving the ball a little bit? Yeah, I thought that was a ridiculous call. I mean, you don't have to fumble. Tracy doesn't have to fumble the ball. But yeah, I thought that was a bad call. Brian Daboll's had a miserable season, had a miserable 2 seasons. And if the Giants decide to move on, I hope they pick someone good. Now, we can talk about who and Bill Belichick and everybody else. But here's the point. What bothers me most is we can get on the Giants for a ton of crap. We can get on the Giants for Saquon Barkley. You can get on for drafting him, moving on from him. You can blame him, Xavier McKinney, as he had another interception that game against the Niners, and he has 7, which leads the NFL. You could talk about drafting Evan Neal. You could talk about drafting Kayvon Thibodeau. You can talk about drafting Hyatt. You can talk about all the problems that this coach and this GM has done. But what bothers me most about yesterday is the one thing they did right. Benching Daniel Jones and allowing him to move on broke the team. And that is so frustrating to me because that was the absolute right thing to do. At 2-8, it's absolutely the right thing to do. So while I'm happy they lost because I think they need to lose, and I'm happy Tennessee got their 3rd win, and I'm happy the Giants right now are picking 2nd in the draft, I'm not happy they gave up. Now, we could talk about that being on the coach. It's on the players, too. It's on the players, too. And the idea that Daniel Jones and his sad press conference, and I respect the hell out of Daniel Jones. I'm not blaming Daniel Jones. He didn't do anything wrong. But neither did the Giants when it came to the Daniel Jones situation that just happened over the last week. And the idea that this team and its leadership, instead of rallying behind the decision, questioned it publicly. And it broke it quite obviously because they've lost games. They've even gotten blown out. They told you how they felt about their own performance after the game. Soft. The New York Giants gave up on the field against the Tampa Bay Bucs after the Bucs went down the field and put it in the end zone, and that was it. That was it. And we can talk about the coach losing the locker room, and then I would even ask you, and I'm hearing it everywhere, that once you lose the locker room, that's it. Is it? Does this year have anything to do with next year? Because I think he had the locker room going gangbusters at the end of last year. At the end of 2 years ago. After that playoff victory, they signed Daniel Jones. They signed Dexter Lawrence to a long-term contract, Andrew Thomas to a long-term contract. They brought back Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag. This team was supposed to go, everything was great. Brian Daboll's coach of the year. Everything was wonderful inside that locker room. It could not be better. What happened? What happened? Last year, they fought back. Tommy DeVito provides a spark, wins a couple games. They avoid drafting at the top. They showed some fight, right? They showed some feistiness and some fight. At the end of the year, won some games. Beat a Green Bay team that went on to win playoff games. Won games down the stretch. Daniel Jones was coming off injury. Everything was great. What happened? It's a year-to-year proposition. And even if he loses this team, if they have a young quarterback next year who immediately shows that he's a talented kid and who will immediately uplift this team, it won't matter that he lost the locker room this year. It won't. It honestly won't. So we could say, oh, he lost the locker room, that's it. Once a coach loses the locker room, you got to fire him. Why? The best thing that could happen for this team is moving forward is losing these games and getting a draft pick, drafting a quarterback, and then developing him. And again, tell me who they're going to hire who will do it better. That's it. And if you trust John Mara to make a better hire, okay, I don't know, at least Brian Daboll, whether you think it's overblown or not, at least there is an example of Brian Daboll developing a young quarterback in Josh Allen. He was the offensive coordinator. He was the guy who worked with him. Josh Allen specifically mentions him as the guy who really helped him get over the hump. It was a process. It was a drafting of a young quarterback who was inexperienced and a project quarterback. Year 1, he stunk. Year 2, he got a little bit better. Year 3, he broke out. There is a direct correlation of him being coached up in the NFL. You want to say I'm overblowing it? Fine, I'm overblowing it. At least I have an example. Show me the good hire John Mara made. If you think Daboll sucks and you think Joe Schoen sucks and they absolutely need to be fired, they're a disaster, then show me the good hire John Mara has made in his entire ownership. Because he hasn't made one. Tom Coughlin was hired by his father. There is not a good coach, GM, anything that John Mara has put his name on. Not one. So let's do that. Let's trust John Mara instead of allowing this coach to do the one thing I think he can. But it's hard for me to argue that when they lose 30-7 and get blown out at home by Tampa Bay. You got Baker Mayfield doing the Tommy DeVito with way too much elbow and not enough wrist. Everything's an embarrassment. Everything is an embarrassment. They get embarrassed on a daily basis, and it's impossible to tolerate. So, yeah, there's a part of me that screams clean house. There's a part of me that says Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have an opportunity to do something that they were first candidates to be head coaching and GM in the first place, and maybe they can develop a young quarterback. I'm torn. Either way, this is the most disgusting, ugly, bottom of the barrel, low point in Giants history. Like, I wasn't around for the 70s. I can't tell you that. I don't know how it's worse. This is as ugly an era of Giants football that has ever existed.